Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring Fabula Ultima TTJRPG. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this tabletop role-playing game that attempts to bring the Japanese video game RPG experience to your table, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about status effects and Fabula points. Let's start with the effects. Characters, be they player characters or non-player characters, can suffer status effects during play. This will often be a consequence of attacks and spells. So you have things such as Dazed, which temporarily reduces your insight die size by 1. Enraged, it temporarily reduces your dexterity and insight die sizes by 1. And with this couple of examples, you can pretty much tell that the other status effects also reduce your die size by 1. Temporarily. Now, concerning cumulative status effects, different status effects that influence the same attribute will stack. For instance, being both dazed and enraged reduces your insight die size by 2. That said, your attributes cannot be reduced below a d6 size. If a character is suffering from a status effect and receives that same status effect again, nothing happens. Luckily, status effects can be healed through resting or via specific spells, skills, or items. If a character is immune to a given status effect, they cannot suffer it. If they become immune to that status effect while they have it, then they immediately recover from that status effect. Now, when it comes to the 6 status effects of dazed, enraged, poisoned, shaken, slow, weak, are an abstract representation of a character's diminished abilities. Poisoned can represent being drunk or sick. Shaken might be caused by fear or hallucinations. Slow can come from ice magic, as well as especially sticky ooze, and so on. Many other afflictions could be treated as their own status effects, such as being asleep or petrified. However, these are not status effects and behave in a different way. Instead of reducing a character's game statistics, they affect the way that character can act within the game world. Petrified creatures, for instance, will be unable to act. When dealing with similar effects, rely on logic and on what makes sense given the circumstances. Unless established by the game rules, it is the game master's job to decide which events translate to status effects and which are handled as narrative elements. Let's talk about Fabula points. Fabula points represent the player character's ability to influence destiny and stem directly from their heroic nature and the hardships they face. Each newly created character automatically receives 3 Fabula points. Any other Fabula points must be gained during play. There are 4 main ways a player character can gain Fabula points, plus a 5th optional method. Some of these ways include: if a player character has no Fabula points at the start of a session, they immediately receive 1 Fabula point. Whenever a player character rolls a fumble on a check, they immediately receive 1 Fabula point. I have mixed feelings about this because here we see another example of the player character being rewarded for failing. I think perhaps it would be better if you restricted that to a great success in a roll. But that's just my personal take on things. So these are just a few of the ways in which you can obtain Fabula points. There is no upper limit to a character's Fabula points. In short, you are free to hoard them in preparation for an important occasion. However, spending Fabula points is one of the main ways you will gain experience points and increase your level in the game. I think this is a good mechanism because otherwise you would have this player character stockpiling who knows how many Fabula points and unleashing them all with the game boss or one important fight in the adventure. Thus, saving them up will slow down the growth of the entire group. Now, when it comes to spending Fabula points, your character's Fabula points can be spent in a variety of ways. You have already encountered some of them during the previous parts of this review, but here are 2 more. Altering the current situation to your advantage in some way by modifying or adding elements. Some powerful character abilities require you to spend Fabula points in order to activate them. We will talk about elements in a few moments. Taking this into account, you can use Fabula points to alter the story, invoke a bond, invoke a trait, or use a skill. Fabula points act as the core engine of the game. Well, I'm not so sure about that, but it is an important component. And they work as both a mechanical and a narrative currency. The more hardships and defeats you face, the more Fabula points you earn. And the more you spend them to overcome obstacles and challenges, the faster your character grows. In a way, Fabula points represent this cycle of fate surrounding the protagonists of the story. They gather resolve from defeat, channel that resolve through the traits and bonds that make them who they are, and grow stronger for that, only to be faced with even greater adversities. So I think it makes sense that you grow from your mistakes, but you usually grow because you are more intelligent, more wise when doing certain things, carrying out certain actions. I think you would rely too much on Fabula points with the rules as written. So if you're going to be playing it like this, I recommend that at the very least, you really challenge your player characters. Let's talk about altering the story. As a player, you can spend 1 Fabula point to make a statement about the story. You get to shape part of the world, its people, and its creatures, to fill in the gray areas and generate an opportunity for action, tweak a detail in your favor, or even introduce a convenient plot twist. So, I'm all in favor about this, altering the story using the mechanics of the game. The rules need to be baked into that, so that everything is coherent. If you want to change or add new details to a character, location, or item that has already been established, such as a character, location, or item the Game Master described or introduced, you will first need the Game Master's permission. So those sorts of things should be the only interruptions during roleplay. You could tell the Game Master, I want to alter this, and the Game Master could respond, you can do this, but with this. Okay, so you move forward and you keep on role-playing. This is not about stalling the game with a long conversation. I think you should really clarify this during session 0. If your alteration directly affects another player character, for instance, if you are establishing there is a bounty on the head of one of your companions, you will first need permission from the corresponding player. You cannot use this option to contradict a statement previously made by yourself or by another participant. You cannot use this option to cause mechanical changes, such as gaining or altering a skill, switching a creature's vulnerabilities, or inflicting a status effect on one or more enemies. The Game Master might decide that the element you introduced grants a mechanical advantage, but that's their call to make, not yours. If you introduce a new non-player character this way, that character will still be under the Game Master's control. As with any freeform tool, this option is very powerful and may be used in a variety of ways and intensities. Some players will just add a useful item on the scene. Others will come up with entire new locations and place them on the world map. When you sit down to play, discuss what you feel comfortable with, but do your best to embrace the adventurous and sometimes over-the-top nature of this rule. I would say that you should only discuss such matters during session 0 or before or perhaps after the game. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about villains. So I like the way that adventures are altered by spending Fabula points, as long as roleplay is given priority. Like I said, session 0 and moments before or after the session, those moments should be used to discuss such matters, not during play. Although I feel that they went too easy on the poisoned status effect. There are many Japanese RPGs, that is video games, where poison can be quite deadly unless you treat it right away with an antidote or a special spell or ability. I also think that the way you obtain Fabula points, some of those guidelines feel a bit too generous, rewarding failure in a potentially unnecessary way, but that is easy enough to tweak or change. But if you want to play this as vanilla Fabula Ultima, I would recommend that you really challenge your players so that they earn these rewards. Thank you for watching this part of the review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.